Hey, hello everyone. Jose J. Garcia with Mo Home University here. Very special guest. He is a psychologist, speaker, and author. Joseph Michelli. How are you, sir?
Good to be with you, Jose. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. It's definitely a pleasure to have you on here. So I first saw you. I've heard you talk plenty of times. I go to YouTube. A lot of my education comes from YouTube, actually. So it's easy access. I can hear it going down the road. I listen to quite a bit of what you do. So, but for those who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I have a PhD in organizational development. I've been a consultant, and my consulting tends to turn out in books. McGraw-Hill has been kind enough to publish books about companies I've worked with, like Starbucks, Zappos, Mercedes-Benz, Airbnb, and a variety of others.
Everything I want to get into. Absolutely. So you've written a lot of books, Airbnb. You mentioned the Light, the Gold Standard. I mean, you have a list of them. I just currently bought a couple of them, one being Starbucks. I can't wait to start reading that. And then also the Stronger Through Adversity. What is different about this last book?
Yeah, it's a big variation. So this is where, the relationships you develop over the course of your career really come in handy. I've been, at the very beginning of the pandemic, I was going to be writing a book about Godiva chocolate, a client of mine, and publishing agreement was in place, all of that. Then the lockdown started to happen, and I wasn't going to be making trips to their manufacturing plant or their new cafes in New York. So pivoted quickly to the clients that I was working with, talked with leaders. Those leaders introduced me to friends of theirs. 140 leaders later, people like Brian Cornell, the CEO of Target, or Hans Vestberg, the CEO of Verizon. We had written a book about how they were coping with the adversities of 2020, some of which were pandemic related, some of which were social unrest related. So all of those challenges that leaders face globally, we took on and tried to determine what are the things that you can do to not only survive them, but to come out stronger through adversity.
Interesting. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I can't wait for my book there. You've helped great companies, and you've taken them to great success, but are all businesses the same in the sense of customer clients? And
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Peter Drucker, the great consultant, said, "You're not in business to make a profit. You're in business to make a customer." I think that's what's universal. I think that what makes a successful business, large or small, is understanding what you have of value, really getting that down so that you understand your value, locating the people who will find the greatest value from you for that thing. That's a marketing process. Once you bring the people in, figuring out how to convince people there is enough value there for them to give you money. That's called sales, right? And then after that, once they buy the thing, that they really get the value that you promised, that's called service or delivery. And then ultimately you make enough money off of this whole enterprise that it's not just a hobby of yours, but it's sustainable so that you can go back out there and attract more people for new products that you innovate that create value. So to me, it's all the same. It's at different scale. I think small businesses have some great advantages in terms of their nimbleness and their closeness to their customers. I think large businesses have some great advantages in terms of the mechanisms and the machine and the technology that they can leverage and bring to the table as well.
very well. But Bruce Buffer has something slightly similar to say also, they're all the same. It's just all how you, I guess, approach them. But out of all the business you've helped, which one did you find the most challenging and why?
Well, I think, every business can convince you that they're harder to manage. Right now, I would say in post-pandemic world, it's hospitality and travel, right? That those industries were just naturally blighted because they were so human related. There was such close contact in the deliverables. So if you're in the entertainment, hospitality arena, it's just super challenging right now. On the reverse side, in the book, I have the president of Microsoft enterprise-wide. They had huge challenges just to scale with their Teams product. It became so popular in the middle of the pandemic, they weren't ready for Teams to go to that level. So I think challenges vary depending upon whether you're in a growth cycle or if you're in a retraction cycle. But I think every business is challenging, and therein is the reward, because it's not much reward if everything is easy. If we all get the trophy, there isn't a great deal of personal sense of success, and I think impact as well.
If it were easy, everybody would be doing it. Absolutely. So, what do you think is the number one reason businesses fail?
I think the number one reason in businesses fail is because the leaders don't understand their customers and or their team members. Because I think team members are your customers if you have them. I mean, a lot of businesses are very small. They're mom and pops. They don't have any customers in terms of employees. But when it comes to the people they serve, whether that is the employee or the end user, they just don't understand. They don't listen. They fire before they aim. And there's a lot of ego that gets involved in business. It's all about me and it's not about my customer. The bigger your ego, probably the greater the likelihood you're going to fail over time. Maybe not for a while, but over time.
That makes sense. Absolutely. If you do lose a customer or client, do you typically consider them gone forever? Is there ways to get them back?
Yeah, no. First off, I think service recovery is the great art. I mean, I think it is challenging to get customers back, but if you actually navigate that water, you take responsibility for the breakdown, you identify what it is you can do to regain their trust, you act in a way that regains their trust, you fix your broken processes, and you then do just a little bit more than they expect. Those customers can be among the most sticky you'll ever have because ultimately they saw you work on their behalf. Most people understand that no product is flawless, no service delivery lacks a breakdown now and again. What they don't understand is if you don't care and if you don't find a way to fix those broken processes, then they'll cast you out, and boy, social can be really brutal on you.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. So you think all businesses can be successful? An example I used to that is something like Blockbuster, once upon a time massive, and now uh, Netflix is where it's at. But can every business be and stay successful?
I have a picture of myself in Bend, Oregon at the last existing Blockbuster. I think the issue is Blockbuster could have been, fabulous if they hadn't made bad profit. I mean, the notion that you're going to have to pay for your own inability to get it back in time was just a recipe for failure. And then Netflix finds a way to take away those late fees by creating a different delivery model. And, even then Netflix has to become more relevant by allowing you to pause your service at any time so that they're the easiest company to stop doing business with, making it also easy to restart your business with them. I think it all comes down to how adaptive are you? How willing are you to kill your darlings, the things that you think are just so important to you operationally, but aren't relevant to the customer anymore? And how do you make sure that you're not making bad profit? How do you make sure the customer profits first and they then give you profits based on the way their life has been improved?
Very well said. Absolutely. You said if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. We know that with risk comes reward. The higher the risk, the higher the reward. How much too much risk is there? When do you know, okay, that's too much of a risk at one point?
Well, there are different theories on all of this, but there's a Jim Collins wrote how the mighty fall, and in it he talks about you can never take a hit below the waterline on your boat. The notion is that there are certain kinds of things that if you fail at, you will not be able to continue. You should not endeavor in those things. All in, gamble it all sort of stuff that's great in poker. It's not so good in business, right? It's dramatic, but it's not a way to run a company. There are certain fundamentals that you need to execute against. You got to make sure that you understand finance, you understand how to get more inflows than you have outflows. That's fundamental. You have to invest in your future, but you can't overinvest. It's a delicate balance. If you didn't invest in technology because you were just too stingy to do so, you had a heck of a time pivoting in the middle of the pandemic. If you invested in the wrong technologies, you had a heck of a time. So the art is to try to figure out how much do I need to invest in my seed corn to grow for the future? What do I need to do to make sure that the fundamentals of my business make it so that I am capable of withstanding, a pitfall, making sure that I have some reserves as well.
Does gut feel have anything to include to that? Do you?
I'm sorry, gut feel? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, but for me, a lot of intuition is learned over time. I mean, my intuition early on was a kind of cool gut feel, but it was often wrong. I just didn't have a foundation to base it off of. I think a lot of it is gut feel comes over time with experience. And I would watch people and understand the basics of how they do business before I rely too much on my gut.
Understood. What do you think is the biggest difference between those who succeed and those who fail? Is it just work ethic or?
Yeah, I think work is a huge part of it. I think that people who succeed tend to have a vision. They have a purpose for their life. They're on purpose. They know what that purpose is, and they're on purpose. I think they are open-minded. They're constantly learning. I think in general they're optimistic, but realistically so. They're not pessimistic. It's hard to succeed if you think there's danger at every turn, but there it needs to be some realism to your optimism, because you can't just go out there with a vanilla belief in everything. So for me, it's a fundamental number of things. It's not just one thing. But if you have a track record of failing and you're not learning from those failures, you've got a problem. I mean, failure is not your problem. It's the inability to learn from it that creates a problem, that
Okay.
prevents success.
Learn from your mistakes. Yeah, if you keep doing the same thing over and over, that there's a problem. It's costing you at that point. Even the education, there, I always tell my students is, what did you learn from it? A lot of times, will cost me an extra 500,000 or something. Yeah, but what did you learn so that you don't do it again? Because that's
Yeah,
the thing is,
yeah.
if you go do it again, then okay, they kind of serve you at that point.
Yeah, $1
But
million is a big stupid. $500,000
ooh,
could be a big win, right? I mean, if you don't replicate it to make it that $1 million loss. Yeah.
we're on a smaller scale. So, Joseph, I invest in mobile homes, manufactured housing, affordable living. And, we take the stress mobile homes, we rehab them, we put them back on the market. Most times than not, we offer financing and we teach people how to do the same thing. Well, what is your knowledge in mobile homes?
So I work with Clayton Homes, which is a Berkshire Hathaway company. It is the largest manufacturing home company. And so I work with Kevin Clayton there. I've worked with their chief experience officer over there as well, and helped them actually establish their chief experience officer position. And really, it's been a wonderful journey with them, creating their vision for the future, coming up with their tactics to make sure they make that happen. And so, they're manufacturing the homes. They have their own dealer network. They also have independent dealers that they have to influence to deliver the experience. It's been a wonderful journey. Clayton is also now buying up a lot of site-built home builders.
Sure.
So, with all of Warren Buffett's potential at Berkshire, they're one of the larger site-built builders. I think you're going to see a future where there's more of the hybrid. There are parts of a home that are going to be built and manufactured and then put on sites. So there's a lot of exciting things, and
Sure.
affordable housing, God bless you. The world right now needs more people
Yes.
helping people afford housing. It's a great way to success in America.
Absolutely. And if Warren Buffett is doing it, I tell everybody it's probably a good investment. So you might want to get in on some of that. So as I continue to grow my business, I've been into it now 6 years, connections and leverage like you talk about are things I push for. But what is a good way to connect with somebody more successful in the same field that you are in?
Well, at first, I think we often limit ourselves by thinking we don't have a right to reach out. And I would point out here, I mean, lots of people don't reach out to me because they, for whatever reason, think, well, he works with Starbucks or Mercedes or whoever. And so they don't necessarily reach out to me. But when you did, I mean, how hard was it? Like, did we make it an inquisition? But
Yes.
the courage to do it is not something that happens. And we tend to say, okay, I'm not going to be on your show every week and I'm not going to be your resident expert and all that. But if people reach out to me and I can efficiently be of some connection to them, I'm going to create some value, because who knows? I mean, I'm not saying that I'm going to tap you on the shoulder sometime, Jose, and say, hey, I need you for something. But maybe the next time I write a book, Jose's a guy that I say, can I get on your show? I don't know that that'll happen, but I know that I said yes to you when you reached out. And I think that your willingness to reach out is the biggest part of it all. Like, it's the stuff in between your ears that says, I shouldn't, I'm not worthy, they won't respond. Well, maybe I wouldn't have, and you might have reached out to 10 people and I was the only one who did, but you got one more than you would have gotten had you not reached out to them. So I think that's the key message, is don't ever believe that people are any different than you and they don't put their pants on, one leg at a time, and let's get on it. See if we can't get something from them and make it a win-win.
Absolutely. No, and we're definitely very grateful to have you here. So absolutely. What do you think is the biggest key to get people to buy into businesses not so well known?
Yeah, I think unfortunately people like sexy businesses, but some of the most successful businesses are like sanitation.
Wow.
People who own all of the trash trucks, not a real sexy business. If you think about it, oftentimes the sexier it is, the more competition there is in the lane. And so what I often say to people is the less sexy businesses are super successful. And I have a buddy named Ellen Rohr, and she's into the kind of rotor-rooter kind of businesses, right? She unclogs things. She has made monster amounts of money and franchised these drain cleaning companies because she realized there wasn't a lot of competition in that grimy lane.
Huh. That makes sense. Nobody wants to take you out of that in a sense. I mean, especially not if you don't understand the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the beauty of it, is that most people are looking at things that flash and sparkle. And if they don't flash and sparkle and there are numbers there, you're able to move in that direction. And I'm not going to say bad things about Bitcoin or whatever, but you just see trendy things that everybody kind of flocks to, and well, guess what? And that may work for you, but there's a lot more traffic trying to get yourself through to be the Bitcoin player out there but maybe not so much in, mobile home rehabilitation.
Sure, I may have to go do some research now on some of these businesses for sure. So I do what makes sense.
Yeah.
Should everyone have a coach, a mentor?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you don't, and it may not just be one, maybe a multitude of them. And I don't know, there's one guru, one mentor, one Sherpa for everybody. I've had a lot of them over the course of my lifetime for different things at different times in my development. But the one thing I know is that, no pro team goes without a coach, right? Like it just doesn't happen on the sports field. And why do we accept that that's reasonable? Why do we think that we need a defensive coach to help our defensive line, right? Why do we believe that? Because we understand that there's a lot of talent, but talent without some kind of development plan tends not to go very far. I mean, people do the best they can. I'm right now, I have a guitar coach, right? I've been playing guitar for a long time, and I was too stubborn to ever get a coach. I've developed some really crappy habits. And so now I'm having to break my habits and relearn things that are just kind of, I'm embarrassed how long I played guitar, and I'm still learning hand positioning in ways that I should have known had I actually taken the time to be coached on it instead of self-taught.
Well, you just mentioned two things there. That's actually my goal, is to learn how to play guitar. I never seem to find the time, but that's something. And I actually just thought, well, I need to get a coach. I don't want to sit there and try to watch YouTube. And if I'm going to do it, let me go and find somebody that's already doing it. That's with anything that you want to do and succeed at. Find somebody doing it, reach out to them and have them do that.
And there are times for the YouTube, right? But even coaches sometimes will send you to a YouTube. But what they've done is they've curated the good YouTube training from all of the crap. So if you want to take all the time to watch 50 videos to find one that kind of has real quality to it, and sometimes we don't even know what the quality one is. Like there's two different ways to do something. We've never done it before. And I'll try it this guy's way, right? Whereas a coach who's actually walked the walk might steer you to the other video. So, I think there's a place, and sometimes we want to be self-taught. If it's not all that important, that's fine. Or if it's, we have the time. But if you really want to save some time and it's really important to you, it's probably worthwhile to invest in a coach.
I tell my students, if you're going to get started with a coach with mobile homes. Real estate investors that come to me, those are the hardest to coach. They have what I call their real estate habits, and they don't work over here. So I have to break that off first and recoach them into thinking a different way.
My thumb is way too high up on my guitar back of my neck, right? It is way too high up, and no wonder I can't play faster, because my fingers can't stretch with that thumb up so high, right? If I put it down, my fingers stretch much better. But I'm in a habit now. Now I got to break muscle memory, and it's true in business and business behavior as well.
Very well put. Do you see the world going back to moving on to COVID now? I know it's huge and it's impacted so many businesses, so many different ways, some for the better. But do you see the world going back to pre-COVID?
Sorry, that's a little funny to me, because that's what we want, right? Like I see everybody wanting that. Or do we? Do we want to have gone through 2020 and be no different for it? Do we want to say, all right, we just lost a year, but we're going to go right back to 2019 because that's how we want to behave? The reality is we've got to be stronger through adversity. That's the title of the book. We need to have a lot of the greatness of 2019. We just happen to have to be stronger because of 2020. So what does that mean? That means far fewer lines, far less contact in terms of being able to make payments, contactless payments, more curbside delivery. All that stuff's going to still be there in 2021 in a way it wasn't in 2019. It's just that we may have the opportunity to actually interact with each other face to face. We have a lot of pent up demand to sit in theaters and dining and arenas. That's all I think going to come back if this pandemic sticks against all strains. You know, to me, if the vaccine sticks against all strains, to me, the world will be better because we went through it if people learn from it, just the same as we talked about all the other ways in which you can learn.
Very good. Absolutely. That's a whole new way to put it. Final question for you. What is next for Joseph Michelli?
Oh my gosh. You know, I right now, we are busier than we've ever been. So most of the time I get all these people want to give me leads, you know, want to sell me techniques to get leads. I tell them, please don't, we got a waiting list. You know, last thing I want to do is try to take on more leads. So I think we want to just double down. We did a lot of pivoting in 2020. I think what we want to do is operationally tighten up. You know, we do virtual keynotes. We want to figure out when to do the virtual keynote versus when to do the live keynote. When does it make sense economically? How do we extend our brand through virtual? Not be the only channel, but how do we extend our brand by having that virtual option? And then how do we move out there and do some of the live events globally that we're used to doing? So, you know, I'm also into retiring someday. So 5 years from now, I'd like to be sitting on a fish, you know, on a stream somewhere fishing most of the time. So I just want to do what's necessary to improve lives for the next 5 years and write another book or two. And I'll be a pretty happy old guy.
Well, we can't wait. Stronger Through Adversity. To definitely wait on that book. And how can people get this book, by the way?
It's right now available. You can go to Amazon. It's just type in Stronger Through Adversity. There's a website, strongerthroughadversity.com. You can go to. You can go to my website at josephmichelli.com. It'll get you there as well. So yeah, that's how you get the new book and learn more about what I do. I do a live stream every week with some pretty amazing people, truly amazing folks. This week I'll have Carmine Gallo on. He wrote a best-selling book about talk like Steve Jobs. I mean, he's just a really excellent communication expert. I have Martin Lindstrom coming on. Anybody who's interested in marketing, Martin Lindstrom is probably the guy. He's out of Denmark. The book, you know, his book Biology, B-U-Y-ology, is one of the great books on how to market for purchase. So yeah, so we have some, you know, extraordinary guests on, all free on the live stream Thursdays, 12:30 Eastern. You can just look me up on LinkedIn and you'll find out about my live streams.
Absolutely. And I'll be sharing the link on our video here below, also how to get the book and how to connect with you. So, well, we are thankful to have you here. Any last encouraging words for those tuning in?
Hey, I think you're in a wonderful industry. I would be very excited to know how you're helping people get into this industry, navigate this industry, find ways of having positive impact for affordable housing in America. It's not, you know, it's not only a function of how you can make money, because there's a lot of ways to make money, but can you do good while you're doing well for the world? And I think that sounds like something that's in your heart. So I'm excited for you and continued great success.
Make it a win-win. Absolutely. Yes, sir. So Joseph, thank you, sir, for joining us today. Don't go nowhere. I got one more question for you after the recording.